Good afternoon, everybody. Today's Thursday, July 17th. Hope everybody had a bullish day, in the words of Pat, because everything else was bullish, so I hope you had a bullish day. I am an associate member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and a member of FINRA SIPC. All of my trades are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. Position disclosure. The only thing that's new on here is I shorted small and kept small. Little bit afraid of some of the bullish option flow that we're still seeing come into that name, but it's extended enough on the daily where I shorted some today, and even though I'm out of the money on it, the position is small, and I'm keeping a little bit of it. All right, so strong day. We're down after the close right now off the Netflix earnings. Netflix is trading down not a lot, $15, $16. The report looks decent. They guided higher, but the higher guidance is primarily related to currency, to the weakening of the US dollar. We know that the US dollar has been getting absolutely, absolutely destroyed. It seems to be, part of the agenda of the administration along with the trade wars to weaken the dollar, to strengthen domestic industry. So the report looked decent, but they're selling Netflix down on that. If anyone remembers, back in, oh boy, what year was it? 23, 24. Let me look at the UP chart. Actually, that'll tell me. 22. Yeah, back here in 22. A lot of companies, a lot of Mag 7 companies were not having great earnings reports around whatever earnings season that was, the July earnings season or the following one in the year 2022. And they repeatedly said it was because the dollar is so strong. The dollar is so strong. And what we saw was that the market really gave those companies a pass. If the main reason why you're missing expectations is because of currency concerns, they kind of give you a little bit of a pass on that because currencies tend to, in the long run, mean revert. So that doesn't mean that there's an underlying problem with the business or anything like that. It just means that the dollar is strong, so it makes your business not look not quite as good. So with Netflix today, it's a little bit of the opposite. They guided really well, but they're saying, we're guiding really well because the dollar is weakened so much. So they're hitting Netflix down a little bit after hours. Again, a very nothing kind of report here. Nothing to be super excited about, nothing to be super disappointed about. So trading down a little bit. We'll see where this thing ends up tomorrow. Probably higher. So turning things back over to the indexes for a review of the day here a little bit. SPYs closed up 0.6%. We're back to where we were. So SPYs closed up 0.6%. The Qs are up 0.8% on the day. So really, really strong day. And the IWM was up 1.25%. So incredibly strong day. TLT was flat, no concerns there. The dollar was green, but is still below the 2750 2750 UUP level that we've been looking at. That's been resistance in this UUP for over a month, and it is possible that the dollar starts to break up that you could get a short squeeze. We know that positioning in the dollar right now is very, very short, so I won't be surprised to see if we start to break up a little bit more, get above that 2750, but the dollar gives a little bit of a short squeeze. And you would think that that would make the market be a little bit weaker, but most likely the market would go up on it because the market goes up on any and everything. In today's morning meeting, we basically discussed the importance of the high from 2 days ago and the low from yesterday. We're in one of those situations where you have like a potential pivot high 2 days ago, followed by a potential pivot low. Which one is going to win? Your guess is as good as mine, but most likely the trend is going to win, and the trend is up. So the key spot for the SPYs is basically 628. That's basically the high from 2 days ago, just underneath it. And we closed at literally 628. So the SPYs, maybe we gap down tomorrow, but otherwise the SPYs are confirming the breakout now. Whereas 2 days ago was a breakout failure, they're beginning to confirm the breakout here above this 628, and the Qs have done it. The Qs have done it. 520 was the upside spot from the Qs 2 trading sessions ago. This is where the relative strength came from. TSM's earnings report helped Nvidia to be strong, helped semiconductors, I think, kind of more generally, and helped to push these Qs higher. At the same time, we saw, the price action today was defined by two things. It was defined by the systematic bid, which we saw was returning in earnest today, about $10 billion to buy from vol control. Remember, I've said a couple times over the course of the last couple days that my broader estimate, based on the research I've read, is that on average, we're going to get about $2 billion a day of buying from the systematic funds. That's on average over the course of the next month. But it's a little bit lumpy, right? That's what we've also started to learn. It's a little bit lumpy. Like we had, 10 billion's also like in the upper range of some of the biggest vault control buy days that at least I've ever seen since we've been seeing that data a little bit. But we had two others already over the course of July. One of them actually ended up being a down day, which was 20 billion to buy. And then we had this day on the 10th where we made new all-time highs on 40 billion to buy. And today was 10 billion to buy. And you could just see it underneath the market. I mean, we were just grindy, really strong, up and to the right, more or less a 45-degree angle move here to the right in the spies. Hughes, same deal, very underlying bid. Then around 12:30, though, they went heavily sideways for the rest of the day. So maybe they ran into a little bit of resistance. So that was the one side of it. And then the other side of it was just the continuation of the short squeezes. And there are names coming out of the woodworks. Everything that's anything seems like it's starting to squeeze. We saw Space start to go today. What a garbage company. It was up like 25% at one point during the day. Anything that's got AI in the name started to squeeze today. AI was squeezing higher. There was some other name that I had never heard of that somebody brought up that was it had AI in their company name, not in their stock symbol. That was up massive on the day. I don't remember what it was called. You're seeing a continuation of just a massive squeeze from JOBY, despite them having no earnings and appear like a 15-16 billion dollar valuation compared to like General Motors $50 billion valuation. Just day four closing on highs. The squeeze absolutely continues. QS was up like 20 something percent today. Just ridiculous, ridiculously strong. This thing was already going parabolic, and now it's accelerating out of that to the upside. The one that I shorted small on today, and I'm keeping small, is this UUUU. Day four to the upside, also continuing to accelerate. The days are getting bigger, the candles are getting bigger on this stuff. And I actually think that like UUU, Quad U, actually had a reason to get bought up today when we saw the headline come out about, was it 93.5% tariffs on battery components. So we saw that come out today, and that should be good for like an MP or U, Quad U. The only thing that downticked, and it was briefly and barely, was Tesla on that. I mean, QS, which literally is in the business of making batteries. And my understanding is that they get a lot of those components from China, those rare earths. You can't even find it. I think it was right here at 125 when the announcement came out. It downticked for like literally 15 seconds and then went back up and eventually closed on new highs. You would think that type of news would really negatively impact Tesla because electric cars would really impact QS because they make electric batteries, would really impact even potentially like a JOBY on some second level thinking, because I'm pretty sure that the JOBY plane is electric as well. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong on that. SBET with a secondary. SBET with a secondary. If I love to sell $5 billion of common stock, should be down more on that. SBET with a secondary. Curious to see if JOBY or QS comes out with secondaries. It sounds like they should, but you never know. It's not something you want to count on. I remember when the quantum names were going insane back here, being really surprised that none of them announced secondary offerings. None of them did. None of them did, and they should have. I almost feel like it's mismanagement if your company needs cash and your stock is on an unsustainable path and you don't declare a secondary offering because then it worked its way all the way down. I mean, with that said, it's back here in the 20s, just typing up QEBT as an example. So they don't necessarily, you can't count on it, but we saw just right now SBET come out with a secondary offering, so we'll see how badly that hits it. We saw MP come out with a secondary offering yesterday. They absorbed the hell out of it. The stock is trading up on the day on a secondary offering. Granted, this moved higher on that China news, right? And that's just the environment that we're in, right? It's if good news can come out for a stock, the stock will go up on it. If bad news comes out for a stock or the market, stock doesn't go down on it. So MP moves higher, but Tesla is the only one that briefly, barely even downticks on the news. Just the environment that we're in. With all that said, we had some really good call outs today. Lucid was a great trade. Started buying that one pre-market. It put in that 280 pivot low that we were buying versus on the pre-market. Then it held it several times again during the day. So it was reloading into that 280 and it kind of continued to work. So that was a pretty good trade. I trailed it and ended up getting stopped out on the way down. I remember calling out this Unity high perfectly. I don't know if anybody nabbed that one. I really liked it. I just didn't want to get involved because I felt like I had too many crazy names on already. But Unity with this big, big, big day two here, another one that's starting to get a little bit ridiculous. And on the 5 minute chart, just it accelerated up and then fell down. Not quite a perfect king queen pattern, but it's definitely a trade that I like with that degree of extension on the daily chart. And that one worked great. But obviously, the QSs and the JOBYs, while we actually had a few pretty good calls on the intraday for both of those for the shorts, they never actually gave any real follow through. And eventually, they basically both closed on highs. QS made new highs into the close. So these things honestly don't necessarily look like they're done. We'll see how they gap tomorrow. I mean, it's got to be getting close. It's just really obscene. These are not low floaters. I know that there's large short floats in them, 17% or whatever. Um, but they're not low floaters. They've got massive, massive floats. So the rate of acceleration here is starting to get a little bit silly. You can see the volume really escalating them as well. So whereas I think I had done a pretty good job primarily being pretty light on the short side with these things on the first couple of days, kind of like how I'm in this UU, but I'm also very, very light. Today I got pretty darn heavy in JOBY and QS, and I'm keeping a decent amount of stock in them also, even though I realize they could gap up a little bit further tomorrow. Don't be surprised to see QS eventually fail at 16 or 19 or something like that. It's not impossible when these things go like this, but with the degree of the float, um, you got to think that the upside is somewhat limited. And interestingly enough, we're not seeing a ton of bull flow come into them, which usually is like at least I haven't been. I don't know if anybody has been seeing different, but usually it's a prerequisite to get this sort of a squeeze on a name that's got a large float. And again, I know that there's a decent short position in it, but it's kind of crazy. It just could not downtick at all in certain points. Like you'd roll down and you think it's all right, we're about to break here, and it wouldn't. Or freaking Josh Brown. So we one of the great calls we had in this JOBY, and I thought we caught it on this, was this wedge break. Like perfectly. This wedge got so tight here. It started to form this tail. You could have shorted 1750 something on that for barely any risk. Caught the pullback to 17 on that, and I did cover some into that down move. But when this broke this wedge and started to fail down and was, starting to trade through 17, I was like, we got it. We got it. I was like, it's done. We're gonna break this 17. We're gonna test the gap fill, and that's just how these end sometimes. Sometimes they end with a bang, where you get like the crazy upside capitulation move. Sometimes they kind of end with a whimper. Like the buyers are just getting a little bit tired and then it rolls down and then a feedback cycle of selling ensues. I thought that that's what this was going to be. And then Josh Brown said he's not selling any on TV, which is no reason to buy. But, I guess everyone else decided they're not selling any either. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think kind of covers today. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. I woke up feeling a little bit under the weather, but I am happy to do any important pertinent questions that you guys Might have. Um, from David, regarding a king queen pivot formation, where would I look to enter the trade and place a stop loss? So it's similar but different to like a an upside shooting star candle or a downside hammer. Where there's kind of two ways I can describe that. So one is, if you think about like a sorry, I didn't mean to type QS in the chat. If you think about like a shooting star, like we've talked about this in the past. You We've talked about this in the past. You can wait for the candle to close and have confirmation, right? Candle's closed. There's the upside tail. I'm shorting. Stop loss is the high of that upside tail. Or you can anticipate that it's going to happen, which is kind of what I did on that JOBY. I know it's very different, but I was anticipating that this wedge was going to break and calling that kind of short out very, very quickly, as I even saw this tiny upside tail beginning to form on this candle and the downside pressure actually coming in. So, you can wait for it to close and wait till you really have that hammer and short it versus the high. Or you can try to anticipate. You see it coming down, you see that the upside tail is forming, and then you short it in the midst of that candle, still using the high as your stop loss. The danger of that is maybe there was just a really quick downtick and you're pushing yourself into the trade and the bar still closes on highs and you never technically got the signal. So the benefit of doing it that way is you'll oftentimes get better pricing when it works. The downside of doing it that way is that sometimes you get into trades that never actually confirm that they're trades and you lose money on them. This is going to be pretty much the exact same thing. Technically, like a king queen reversal is when you have like a big positive Maribozu candle that's accelerating, followed immediately by a failure candle and I said that this king queen was not perfect, and I said that because it didn't break the previous bar's low. More ideally, you break the previous bar's low. Um, but if you want to, same deal, really confirm the signal, you wait for it to break the low of the green bar, and then you short versus highs. Or you cheat on it a little bit and you start to short ahead of time versus that high, but you might be suckering yourself into something that's not actually there. So it's really the same exact concept. When you're thinking about a king queen, all it is a shooting star or a hammer, except it's divided over two candles instead of one candle. So it has the same supply and demand dynamics as a hammer or a shooting star. It's just divided over two candles instead of one candle. So I hope that helps. How am I managing my lucid trade? Like, how did I manage it personally? So I thought that the news was very, very bullish. And this is another one, by the way, which you would think that this would have been bearish for Tesla, but it's like good news will make stocks in the market go higher. Bad news does not make anything go lower. Uh, Tesla, this news here wasn't just good for Lucid. They announced that that Tesla has a new competitor in the robotaxi space. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't follow this name super, super closely, but I've never heard anything about Lucid getting involved in the robotaxi space before. So, sure, great for Lucid. You would also think it's a negative for Tesla. Tesla did not downtick at all on this news, but Lucid certainly ripped. And it's got a big short float. So I thought that the news was really important. I know that it has a big short float. I looked it up. I don't remember what it was. $3 here is a little bit of a level on the daily chart. So $3 is a reference point, but there's so much extension here. I'm going to expect $3 to be loose. I don't expect it to hold it perfectly. And that's why, like in my note in the morning meeting today, I said I'm looking to be long Lucid versus 3-ish, right? 3-ish. So what I did was I was a little bit late on it, but it spiked all the way up to 370. And then on the way down, I just kind of started with an initial like smaller position around like 3/4 or 320. Um, so smaller feeler position. I had no stop loss on that because the position is small. Look, taking a smaller feeler position without a stop loss is not right for everybody. You need to understand your style of trading, your account, things like that. If you're too big without a stop, you can do a lot of damage to yourself. But I basically started with a little bit of a feeler, and then I watched it. And then when it got down to 3, which was the important daily level, I added, but continued to watch. and then it broke 3. It put in a low of $2.81, and then when it spiked up, there was a massive refreshing seller on the offer at $2.95. So when I saw the seller, the refreshing seller broke, I took the offer and took a big ad. I think I bought 97 or 98 cents, and then, caught this nice pop up to 350. Then it pulled back down to 280. And at that point, I had booked a lot of profit on like my bigger size, and everything else was kind of just becoming position management. Now I have a reference point to use as a stop loss, which is basically going to be this low, so 280. And I kind of go into my kind of cash flow trading strategy approach where I booked a lot of profit. I'm reloading some on the way down. I'm selling on the way up. I'm reloading some on the way down. I'm selling on the way up. And I decided, I just think that this market's getting a little bit frothy here. And while they could short squeeze loose it up to $5, especially with the way the market's going right now, I just don't want to be in new longs in any of these squeeze names right now personally. So I just decided to trail it pretty tightly, and I got stopped out, somewhere on the way down on that trailing stop when I decided to raise the stop because I decided I didn't want to keep it as a swing trade. So hope that helps. From Michael, would it make sense for an extra layer of protection to put in your stops before entering the trade? I don't like that. I think you just got to be fast on your keys. So the second you're in the position, the first thing you do is you then put your stop out. The second thing you do is then you then put your take profit orders out in that order. You're in the position immediately, like immediately. You get the stop loss in, and then you get the take profit orders out per your game plan. I don't like the idea of putting the stop in first. One, I don't know how well the system can handle that. I've never done it that way, so I'm not sure. But two is, what if you put that stop in and there was just a quick wick before you even bought the stock and you got stopped into the position and now you're short when you want it to be long or whatever? I don't know. So I've just never done it that way. I think you just got to be quick on the keys. Second you're in the position, get your stop out. So hope that helps. I don't think it will trigger. No, it'll trigger. Stops trigger if you don't have a position. I use stops for entries all the time. All the time. Solid day with Bull and Zeta yesterday. Let's hope Bull doesn't drop another offering now. Yeah. Yeah, we had Bull on the radar in the morning meeting today. I liked that long a lot. We communicated it this morning, so thanks for bringing that one up yesterday. It wasn't great off the open. I would have liked this to have gone better off the open. Did it hold the low the second 5 minute bar or did it break it? Oh, it held it. Yeah, so you could have gone long off the low of the second 5 minute bar into the ADMA if you thought it could squeeze, or just you're better off buying this on the way up. But then it held that low and then worked and then squeezed, and now it looks like it's higher after hours because that's what everything is doing. That is what everything is doing. Uh, and it's too early, in my opinion, for them to drop another secondary offering. It's got to do more. And ZETA 16 is a big level, so trying to test that as well. Everything short squeezing. Everything. All right. Looks like I covered everything. I'm a little beat, so I'm gonna wrap it up there. Have a great night, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow.